Welcome to The Real Photo Show. My guest today is Ivan McClellan. Ivan was a guest on the show about 8 years ago, and back then he was about 2 years into the work that he presented to my Photo 2 class. And by the way, that was a lot of fun, and my students got a lot out of it. But now that work is a book called 8 Seconds Black Rodeo Culture, published by Damiani. It was edited by Miss Rosen with a foreword by Charles Sampson, and we will talk about the collaboration editing process. We'll also talk about who Charles Sampson was because that's a really interesting story. Ivan is mostly self taught. We'll talk about how he finds his way to photography. We'll talk about the facts and the lore of the American cowboy. And also, I don't think we mentioned this, and I'm going to read it to get it right. The book's title refers to the sport of bull riding, so that 8 seconds. Athletes must stay on a bull for 8 seconds while it bucks, and the more hectic the ride, the higher they score. And maybe some of you knew that. But anyway, if you are watching on Spotify or YouTube, you'll see a slideshow come and go from the book. Otherwise, you could just listen to the conversation, maybe check out that slideshow later. But before we get to all of that, this podcast is sponsored by the Charcoal Book Club. Begin building your photo book library today at charcoalbookclub.com. The next book to be shipped is Stone Soup by Eric Ruby. And Eric will be a guest on the show in the next upcoming weeks. We're working that out now. This book is about to ship, but also it's published by Nocturno, which was founded by our friend Brad Zeller and Ethan Arrow Jones, and this is their first book. So if you're not a member, sign up today, and maybe you can still get this as a shipment or just purchase it. And if you are a member, you will get that soon. All right, so I think that's it for now. Oh, check out mercergallery.org to keep up what's going on at the JKC Gallery. And yeah, thank you for listening, watching, however you're listening to the show. And we will talk soon.
So Ivan, thank you for coming.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. You were on the show how many years ago?
8.
And where are you living then?
I was living in Portland, Oregon, but I was on a business trip to New York City and
Yeah.
ended up doing a podcast.
Did we record in person? We must have. It was like, oh my gosh. Yes, I've done so many remote recordings now. Were we at SBA?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I used to record this cool visual arts, but 8 years ago. So let's go through it again. Tell us how you get started, interested in photography. Was it sort of like your original path? I know you also have your own business, right?
Yeah, I do a lot of different stuff. Basically, if you pay me money, I'll show up. Is kind of my rule. Photography was not my initial gig. I wanted to be an actor for a long time. I studied acting in New York City at a school called American Musical and Dramatic Academy. I remember the dean of the school, our first day, said, "If you have a backup plan, get up and go do it." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, no, I'm locked in. Like, I've got no safety net. I'm gonna be an actor." And then 5 years later, I was like, "This isn't working. I should have a backup plan." And so I moved back to Kansas City, where I'm from.
Was it like, did you go full auditions, all kinds of things?
Yeah. I was a gigging actor, man. Like I put on the same like $30 suit every day and went and did my monologues and my songs. And really, I mean, the job of an actor is to be rejected and to deal with rejection.
It was like photography.
Yeah. And to say an audition is not about me getting cast. It's about me going and showing what I can do. And then I leave. And so I did that. I got in a few plays, some Shakespeare regional stuff. I find myself in the middle of Illinois in the summer playing Oberon or something like that, but never enough to really like make a living or pay rent or anything like that. But I learned a lot of lessons. I went and started doing design, which I had always cared about.
When I met you, I think that was your primary.
That was what I was. Yeah. I was working at a big multinational ad agency, and I was in town pitching some work that we had won, and I did that for a decade and a half. And
That's a long time.
it was during that time that I started to look for more creative individual pursuits, and I got into photography. which like men in my family had done. My uncle was a photographer. My mom always had friends that were photographers, and I just fell into it really naturally, and it it worked for me, even though it was horrible for a long time. I was obsessed with it and kept refining and exploring exactly who I wanted to be,
We
what my voice was going to be as a photographer.
we have some graphic design, advertising, illustration majors in this class. What could just spend a little time talking about that business a little bit?
Yeah. So it's a blood sport. You know, you can either do marketing and advertising or you can go into the UFC. They're about the same. I started out, you know, of course, I'm coming in with an actor resume.
I know you're
Trying to be he tried to be a designer, and people were like, I don't see the connection. And so I had to connect the dots for people and say, like, the practice of acting is a deep concern and a deep need to understand why people do what they do. And I was able to successfully do that and get a job in marketing and advertising. My first job was at H&R Block.
wow.
I happened to go to an interview right before tax season where they would just hire anybody. And they let me in the door. I knew I was going to get laid off pretty quickly. And so before I got laid off, I was like, leverage the fact that you have a job to get another job.
Right.
And I got a job at an agency, and just took off from there. I mean, I did a lot of Googling of like what people were talking about. Initially, I didn't understand anything about email marketing or websites or anything about the communication that we were selling to people. But I really like used Google as a teacher and got really good at it really fast. I mean, now that there's YouTube and now that there's
You
GPT, like yeah, I can get a bevy of information really quickly and level up super fast. But that was kind of what I did. I just like taught myself in this job. I had a very patient boss and worked my way up to art director, worked my way up to creative director. Had a massive amount of imposter syndrome doing that, right? Because all of my colleagues had master's degrees and marketing degrees. And, you know, I had a high school diploma and a certificate from acting school. But I was able to really turn my BS line about this deep concern for the human condition into a real truth. And I got into user experience design and started to do research to understand what made people tick and what made people take action, and made a great career out of it.
Yeah. So
Correct.
that's self-taught, and photography is self-taught.
So photography self-taught for the most part. I mean, I've had some people along the way that have leveled me up really fast. I'm not proud of being self-taught. I don't think that that's like a smart way to go about doing anything. That just means that you took longer than you should. You know, the shortcut to any goal that you want to reach is mentorship because somebody's done it before. And so I can't say that I'm 100% self-taught because I have had some good mentors along the way. But I've never taken a formal program in photography.
And you mentioned influences like Dawood Bay, like among others. But yeah,
Just Dawood Bay, Jamel Shabazz, you know, just these people that are doing exactly what I want to do at an incredibly high level. You can call them on the phone, like who knew? And they're eager to talk to you and give you a level up.
that's really wild. So when does that graphic design art director career start turning towards photography?
You know,
At least 8 years ago.
at least 8 years ago, I don't know why you talked to me because it was, I was kind of flopping around, like getting things figured.
I look for those people who are like really like showing something on Instagram or showing something. Like I saw the work coming out. Absolutely.
Well, yeah, you see, I think that was the first podcast that I did. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know what to talk about. I don't know what to do with my hands. Like, this is amazing. I felt like a celebrity, but I accomplished nothing.
Well, that's not true. But anyway, go ahead.
Initially, my first foray into photography was on a trip. I went to Istanbul and I borrowed a friend's camera. He had a Canon Rebel and he borrowed it to me and he was like, here's ISO, here's aperture, here's shutter speed. And I was like, okay, whatever. I don't know what you're talking about. But I went on this trip and it was magical. I went into places that I wouldn't have gone otherwise to take pictures. I went to a soccer match between Besiktas and Galatasaray, which was violent and crazy. And I had no business being there. And I'm taking pictures as an American in a very hostile environment. I went into mosque. I went into people's houses. This camera was just like this magic ticket that got me into places that I hadn't gone otherwise.
It has always been entree, the camera.
Yeah. And I had no clue what I was doing. But I got home and I looked at the photos and was like, wow, that's in focus and the colors are rich. Like, I'm a prodigy. This is what God put me on earth to do. And then I spent the next 5 years taking some of the most embarrassing and bad photos that you could ever imagine. I was like, posting on Craigslist for $100 shoots and just the problem with photography. That's me. That's who I was. Yes. I was undercutting my peers and just pumping out garbage and I was unprofessional. And if you actually got your photos, like it was a miracle. If you got them in time, that was an even bigger miracle. I started doing weddings, which I really loved.
Oh, wow.
I love doing weddings.
You don't hear that often.
Like I loved weddings. I love them because it's the most important day in these families' lives. And you got invited.
I think that it's that pressure that makes a lot of photographers feel very anxious about.
You have to shoot outdoors, indoors. You have to anticipate the action. You have to interact with people. You have to take portraits.
Lights are very high.
And you have to be good at a bunch of different modes of photography. And I did that until it was either like, I'm going to be a wedding photographer or I'm going to be an artist. Really can't really do both. And so I stopped taking money for photography. I started doing street photography exclusively. That was when I met you.
Yeah.
I was like going out on the street every day for like 3 hours, taking photos for several years. And that was right when I ran into a black rodeo.
Yep. That's when it started.
I think I did it. I shot my first black rodeo 2 years before I met you. And that just kind of took off in my life.
Yeah. Yeah. And was there something about the theatrical aspect of the rodeo that really appealed to you? Or how's that or actor wannabe? Yeah.
100%. Everybody's there to show out, show what they can do. They're dressed in fringe. They're dressed in leather chaps. Like everybody is there to perform. And I really resonated with that piece of it. More the circus of it than the Western rough and tumble rodeo part. Like I was wearing chinos and wingtips. Like I had no business being at the rodeo, but as an actor, as a showman, like it completely resonated for me. And I was really strong in my skill. I was really strong in my interaction with folks from doing weddings. You know, from doing weddings, I'm like getting a whole family together and like moving people around and making them laugh and just being like a cheese ball. I took those skills out onto the street and then I brought those skills into the rodeo and they served me incredibly well.
Yeah. Yeah. And you run into Charles Sampson, right? And he becomes a real focal point for you, like someone who, like, I think helps with the direction of the work you're making, right?
Yeah. Charles Sampson is the first Black man to win the national prize in bull riding. He won the national finals rodeo the year I was born.
Wow.
So a long time. It's been long. And he's the last Black man to win the world championship.
Wow.
So he's a walking legend. You know, he's not rich. He lived in a house, in a back room, in a house of a old rodeo stuntman in Hollywood who would make his horses flop over like it got shot. That was the horse's trick. And he was in a bunch of westerns. And so these two like Western legend weirdos are kind of living together. And I went to go shoot him, and he's a nice man. He's got a lot of stories. He performed in front of Ronald Reagan. He rode a bull in front of Ronald Reagan, and he got bucked off the bull, and the bull stepped on his face and broke every bone in his face in front of the American president.
Wow.
In the 80s. He got his ear ripped off riding bulls. He's completely destroyed his body and destroyed his brain, doing what he loves. And so he's just this nice old man. He's 5'4". He grew up in Watts, California, and would hide his bull riding gear in a bag so the gangs wouldn't mess with him or tease him. And he would go and practice every day to just do what he loves. And so I meet him, and he's very gentle. He's very calm. He's got a rubber ear glued onto the side of his head. And he's still rodeo. He does team roping now. He can't ride a bull because he's in his 70s. And so we're getting along. We're having fun. He puts me on a horse. We're riding horses around. He's getting ready for his competition. And I ask him about up-and-coming bull rider, Ezekiel Mitchell, and what he thinks about it. And this gentle old man with a broken body and a rubber ear turned into a monster. When he started to talk about bull riding, I could literally see his eyes dilate and him become a creature.
Wow.
You know, and he talked about it with such intensity. I'm 6'1.5". He's 5'4", and I was intimidated. I was legit scared of this man.
He became the athlete.
Yeah, competitor. He did. It was like talking to Michael Jordan about basketball or Tiger Woods about golf. It was just an energy shift that I've never experienced in person. And it really, really brought me into the sport in a more serious and a more obsessive way.
Yeah. And like I could see why you connected with him too, because he had this dream of doing something that was completely out of his wheelhouse, completely like growing up in Watts. That wasn't something people thought about bull riding at all. And, you had this idea you wanted to be an actor, then you'd get into graphic design and photography, and you're sort of both sort of forged your own paths in a way, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
and I mentioned Charles Sampson because he's also wrote the forward to the book.
Yeah. He wrote the forward to the book, as best he could. He's got CTE.
Oh, okay.
It was a challenge. Like every time that I've met him, and I've probably met him 25, 30 times around the country. I met him in Steamboat Springs. I met him at different rodeos. Every time that I meet him, I have to remind him of who I am.
Oh, okay.
And how we know each other.
Yeah.
I was like, remember that campaign? I looked up and shot her. He's like, oh yeah, Urban. It's like, yeah. And so I asked him to do the forward to the book like 6 or 7 times. So he finally did it, and I think it's beautiful. Yes, it is. Yeah, he kind of talks about what a tenderfoot I am as a cowboy, and I thought that was beautiful because of that.
Yes.
That's how I grew up. I grew up in a household of women. I grew up in Kansas City. I had to hands. I'm not Kramus Warren.
I knew it wasn't Portland. It was Kansas.
Yes, right. Yeah, it's where I was born. I was living in Portland 8 years ago. Well, Kansas City is where I was born and raised, and I was the furthest thing from a cowboy, and still am. My hands are pillow soft. Like they're well moisturized. So I don't know if a gate pushes in or swings out. There's just so much about this world that I don't know, and I don't pretend to be a cowboy. And he acknowledged that. But yeah, I'm not a cowboy, but I am a torchbearer in this world.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And promoting this whole aspect of sport and seeing it in the way that you see it, in an important way. Again, you've been working on this now for 10 years then?
10 years, yeah.
How has the project evolved over time?
when I first went to that first rodeo, I was invited by a friend who had told me about it, and I was kind of like, nothing you're saying makes any sense to me. We were at a bar, and I was like, you just said black and cowboy in the same sentence, and you're talking about this like Soul Train rodeo, and like I'm just not connecting the dots. And he was like, well, come with me to Okmulgee, Oklahoma this summer, and see it for yourself. And I ran home. I bought my plane ticket. I sat there anticipating what this thing would be like, and I went. It was a 105-degree day. I saw thousands of cowboys on horseback. All of them were black. I saw men riding around with gold chains and basketball shorts on horses. I saw women with box braids and acrylic nails riding 50 miles an hour. I was sitting there with a smoked turkey leg and a strawberry pop trying to take pictures. I was just like, I was in Narnia or Oz, or, and I just like went somewhere else. And I left, I edited the photos, I posted them on Instagram, and I was done. I was like, I did that. I was there. Yep. What else am I going to do? And then an opportunity popped up the next year to go to another rodeo. When I went to that one, it was in Arizona. And it was completely different. It was a completely different vibe. The dust was different, like the dirt was tan versus the dirt in Oklahoma was red. And the cowboys were wearing turquoise and pink. We were in Oklahoma, they were all in white. And it was just a whole different vibe. The crowd was different. They weren't as serious. The crowd in the rodeo in Oklahoma, all of them show up on horses.
Oh, wow.
The crowd in Phoenix, Arizona, were kind of looky-loos. They weren't real cowboys. Their hats were goofy, and I was like, oh, that's weird. That was a whole different, I got a different feeling from it. And then I went to a different rodeo in Denver, and then I went back to Okmulgee, and then I looked up, and it had been 3 years, and I had been to 20 rodeos.
Wow.
And I just kept going back. Had no plan, had no idea of a book, had no idea of a brand, no idea that I was going to be doing live events. None of this had popped into my head until really my wife, like after about 5 years, was like, what the hell are you doing? You go to a rodeo every weekend. It was like, really, the pandemic hit. The pandemic hit in 2020. Portland was locked down. Like, people were outside running in an N95 mask. All the restaurants were closed. You couldn't do anything. And flights were dirt cheap. So I would get on a flight every single weekend and fly to Oklahoma, where you could just go into a Chili's, like nobody had on a mask. The rodeos were still going. It was like nothing was happening. And I would reach out to clients like Wrangler and Boot Barn and Stetson and be like, hey, I'm not afraid of dying. I'll go shoot anywhere for you. And they were like, cool. Will you go shoot this cowboy in Virginia for us? And I will go and shoot by myself and have.
You became the COVID photographer.
I undercut every photographer in this space because I was too ready to be like, only to get on the plane by myself and go shoot. And that was really when the work started to congeal and started to come together as a project.
Yeah. At what point do you start thinking about it as a book? And, there's always that decision. How does it look on a wall? Do you think about selling prints? Do you think about galleries and book? And then, what does the book do for you differently that make a gallery? Would you otherwise?
Yeah. In 2021, much too early for me, because I was still developing. I was still shooting the body of work. I got invited to do a solo exhibition at a big Western museum in Cody, Wyoming. The Buffalo Bill Center of the Arts.
Ooh.
Massive facility. If you get a chance to go there for any reason, go check it out. They asked me to do a solo exhibition in like a 10,000 square foot space. It was enormous.
That's really intimidating.
Yeah. So I was like, well, I'm going to fill that space up with artwork. I'm going to play, I think I get 40 pieces in that show. Got them all framed, you know, they're glazed. I drove them there with my father-in-law. And put on this show in the middle of COVID. Like, I don't even know if the museum was like open. They just kind of put up the exhibition and everybody was in mask. But it was the first time that I kind of seen everything in one space.
Oh, yeah.
And started to think about the story and how to frame this stuff. And I think the way that I positioned it was like a day in the rodeo. And it went from light to dark. Basically, it was a gradient about on the route. Because that's kind of how I experienced shooting a rodeo. I show up at 11 a.m. and then I shoot all the way until 11 at night when it's over. And so you're just making these minor adjustments throughout the light changes of the day. You're going through the different modes of people just kind of showing up, having community time, getting ready for the rodeo, and then performing. And that was the way that I framed it. But like seeing it all in one space, I was kind of like, that's a really weak photo. That has no business in here. And that's a distraction. And these are shot years apart. Some of these are in black and white. You know, I was like, these don't fit together, you know, really seamlessly. And it's too much work.
That's
For one shoot.
that is a process that usually happens before you have a show.
Yeah. They gotta let me, again, just like the brands were kind of letting me do whatever I wanted. So, right, this museum let me do whatever I wanted, which didn't really serve me at the time for my really first exhibition that I'd ever done.
But at least you got to have that experience and at the same time really see the work.
Yeah. Yeah. I got to see it in space. And so then that's really where the birth of the book came from, was like, how do you, number one, I would go risk my life through COVID on a plane by myself a lot of times, go into these rodeos, no mask on, talking to people that are coughing in my mouth. I'll climb on a fence into the arena because they'll let you do whatever you want at these smaller rodeos. I'm in there running from bulls, jumping over fences, smashing my camera into the wall, cutting my hands open to get these photos. I would take a photo, like the cover of the book. I had dirt flying at me. I was in the arena. That's a very dangerous photo for me personally to take.
Yeah, you're like rodeo clown distance there, right?
Yeah, very close. That's a 35 millimeter lens. That's crazy. Yeah. And I would post it on Instagram and it would get 30 likes. And I was like, man, I put so much, this photo cost me $1,000 to take and I risked life and limb to get it. And I got 30 likes. That sucks. So just like the compression of Instagram, the scale of Instagram, the speed of Instagram, I felt didn't honor the quality and the stories of the photos or the people in the photos. And so I wanted to get it on paper. I wanted to get it on high quality paper. I wanted to get it big. And I wanted to slow people down so they could really dive into this world and experience it frame by frame. Was really the motivation behind the book. And taking the lessons that I learned from the gallery, I initially made a book that was like this big, you know, it was huge. It was like every photo. And then it was like, that's too many photos. This won't be your last book. Like, take a page from William Eggleston and just put photos that really bring people into a place together. I didn't put all of my best photos in there. I put some photos of just church with a septic tank to bring you into a place, or a field of weeds. Photos of place, photos of a mood, of a hand on a texture, and really started to work on the craft of visual narrative more than just like the craft of look how good I am at photography, you know?
Yeah, that's the tough part about any kind of presentation, but especially a book, is it's not the favorites. It's what makes sense together.
Yeah, we fill your darlings kind of deal. I was snatching pages out of my book that I was like, I love this photo. What is it? It doesn't fit.
Mm-hmm. And is it published by Damiani?
Yeah.
And who was the editor? Who with you?
The editor was Miss Rosen,
Mm-hmm.
who edited a lot of Jamal Shabazz's books.
Yes.
And
Sarah Rosen.
Yeah, Sarah Rosen. She goes by Miss Rosen as her professional name.
Yeah.
But she had done a couple of articles. She did an article for Dazed and Huck magazine about the work. And we did an article together for ESPN about the first televised Black rodeo, which run 21. And so we had a great relationship.
Yep.
I was really struggling to get the book published. I went to every publisher, everybody, and was like, this book is great. Like, put it on. And they were like, no, look, we do 2 books. One is subject matter that's interesting. Church hags, cats of Instagram, vintage cars. We do niche books that you can give someone as a gift to put on their coffin.
I was just talking about the pitfalls and dangers of nostalgia and things like vintage cars. Yes.
Vintage cars, yeah. They want books about that, or we want books by notable figures and celebrities. You, Mr. McClellan, are neither. You don't have niche book, and you don't have a name, and so we will not publish your book. And so I self-published it. I did a Kickstarter. I needed $16,000 to make 600 copies of the book. I raised $26,000. I made the books. I shipped them all out of my basement with my wife, Heather. And then I went back to all the publishers and be like, hey, I just raised $26,000. I sold out a book. Rave reviews. Everybody loves it. Like, publish my book. And they were like, no, not interested.
Wow.
And then I went to Miss Rosen. I paid her to edit the book.
Right.
She told me I needed to get a designer. I paid the designer to design the book. All in, I'm $20,000 in on this thing. She said 2 emails, one to one publisher and one to Damiani, and Damiani went, yeah, we'll do it. It's just like that. So
that helps.
I don't know what the lesson is there.
Well, I should start involving some professionals, right? And also, as painful as it is for a lot of people, it does help to have a network and connections, and because she believed in your work, right? And then she finds people who believe in which she approves.
Yeah. She had been in the industry for a long time. She worked for Powerhouse and had her own imprint, and she knew who to call. There's a story about the guy that works at FedEx. The machines at FedEx go down, and they call a machinist to come in, and he goes in and screws one nail, and the whole machine comes back to life. And he goes to the boss and he says, that'll be $10,000. He's like, you just screwed one nail. He said, well, it's $1 for the nail, and it's $999,000 for the years of experience. And I had to know,
That's right. And saving your business.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. First, I think we should give Heather some credit here, and for becoming a rodeo widow when you're not even a rodeo rider.
Yeah, she's really the heart behind the business. I mean, she puts a lot of work into this thing. She manages a lot of the social media stuff, which I'm not good at. Somebody will send me a 3-paragraph message on Instagram, and I'll like thumbs up it. Like, it's just like in digital spaces, be more human, be more engaged with people. And in physical spaces, like, take the time. Like, we'll do a book tour. I'll go to a bookstore, 20, 30 people will show up in Baltimore. It's like, interact with each and every one of those people. Go talk to them, sign their books. Like they came here on a Friday night. Yeah, 20 people showed up on a summer night on a Friday, and she's like, I'm kind of like, oh. There's only 20 people here. And she said, 20 people show up to listen to you talk. Go sign those books, you know? So she's really taught me how to be more human, how to grow the audience. That's how one person at a time. And she's put up with my artistic thrash.
Did you meet in the PR business world?
No. My wife worked in healthcare.
Oh, okay.
And I met her on the internet. I just said, give me a tall redhead in my zip code. And she showed up. And I was like, this is great. Oh, what a win. I met her in Portland. And we've been together for 15 years now.
Nice.
Yeah. So she really knows how to build cults, you know, like in business, in like her healthcare space. Like all the women that worked for her would wear like leopard print because she wore leopard print, and then they would wear red lipstick because she wore red lipstick. And she knows how to,
She's an influence.
she knows how to build a following in the real world and really engage people deeply.
Yeah. But I think the interesting thing is to have this partnership.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, where you're creating the work and the content and the books and everything else, and she's there to sort of help with how to then navigate the selling the product and all those other things.
Exactly.
The social media.
Just made it a lot bigger than it ever would be. My vision was to, you know, be in galleries.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, I think there's a lot bigger opportunity here.
And of course, the book puts the work in more people's hands.
And yeah, absolutely. It's like every Black household has a picture of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, and the same picture, and then maybe they'll have like a Black Jesus. I wore Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Black Jesus, and a Black. It's kind of the vision.
Yeah.
It's for it to become culturally iconic.
Well, let's talk about the history of the Black Cowboy just a bit, because there is quite a history, including from Mexican cowboys and, of course, slavery and taking over ranches and land and becoming stewards of the land. Right.
Yeah. Whenever people talk about I'm not a historian. I'll start there. But what I know about the history is that all of this came from Mexico. It started with the vaquero. You know, I don't think they get enough credit for being the originators of this entire world. My hat, I'm wearing a cowboy hat, is a sombrero that sat in the sun and got wet, rolled up on the sides. And you pinch it every day and put it on. And like all of the pieces of this hat came together organically from where? Right? Where the Mexican sombrero is a complete dome on the top and a flat brim. White folks left Texas during the Civil War to go fight. All the men left. And they left their cattles just free range roaming around all over Texas. And the Black folks had to go get the cattle and bring them back home. And that was really when Black folks started ranching and cowboying. It was illegal before this for a Black man to get on a horse. But nobody was around to maintain these herds. And so they went and got the cattle, got really good at roping, got really good at maintaining these herds. The white men came home, the war ended, and they hired these Black folks to come work on their ranches full-time as cowboys. So a lot of the early cowboys were Mexicans. A lot of the early cowboys were Black folks. A lot of the early cowboys were white folks. So it was a very diverse group of people. Two inventions: the train, the railroads coming out west and going from the south to the north, made it so that pushing cattle and maintaining herds was a lot more efficient. You could now slaughter your cattle in Texas and get them on a train to go up north to sell the beef. The other invention was barbed wire. With the advent of barbed wire, you didn't have to go chasing your cattle around. You could kind of maintain them in an area. Those two inventions kind of ended the cowboy. The American cowboy gets a lot of attention. The American cowboy is steeped in our storytelling and in our archetypes about America and in our films and our books, but like it is a very short period of time where working cowboys worked in the West. They then had these skills. They knew how to rope. They knew how to ride animals. They knew how to ride fast. They knew how to do all of these things that they would do on ranches. And so they took those skills and started doing them in rodeo. So all of these black cowboys either went to go be domestic servants or work for the railroad, or they went into rodeo to show off their skills.
Yeah.
And so from the very beginning of all of this stuff, black folks were involved.
Yeah. And the cowboys became really ranchers, but those ranching skills of still like breaking in animals and riding animals directly, fed into the skills they need for rodeo.
Exactly. And you had, cowboys like Bill Pickett, who invented the sport of steer wrestling. And he would ride along a steer and he would jump off his horse. He would bite this steer on the lip and pull it down to the ground. And he invented a sport where those were the rules of the sport.
Wow.
Is wrestle a steer to the ground, which is a skill that he learned on a working range. How do you get a steer to flip over that's not interesting? You made it.
That takes some guts.
It's crazy. The only one that really wrote about that world was a guy named Nat Love. And he's got a book about his journeys through the West. And people are like, Nat Love is a fable teller. And he went by Deadwood Dick and he could shoot the wings off a fly. Like everything that he says is so over the top, but it's like
Mythical.
right. He's the only one that can write, so he gets to tell whatever story he wants to tell. Yeah. This is the pure story he wants because no one's there to.
That's right, to contradict his errors. You mentioned you grew up in a family of women. I don't know, remember you talking about your family history too much your first time around. Can you talk more about that? And also the career path you took, the sort of response to that, reaction to that?
Yeah, I grew up with my mom, my sister Carissa, and my grandma, and we all lived in a little house. Nothing special about it, except for the fact that behind our house, each house on our block had 5 acres of land. And so we would go back there, me and my sister, and we would pick blackberries and we would catch fireflies and we would climb trees. And Mr. Wills down the street had cow. And he would be out there messing around with these cows. He was a black man. So I never thought that he was a cowboy. I just thought he was a weirdo. Because I was like, why does he have cows in the middle of the city? Like, this makes no sense. And Junebug down the street bred dogs, and people had chickens back there, and I just never thought much about it. We would go in the house and we would watch Bonanza and Gunsmoke and the Beverly Hillbillies, and there were no black folks on these shows. So I never made that connection that these black folks living this rural life were like those folks on TV. I never made that connection. And my grandma, she grew up on a hog farm. Her and my uncle Jimbo grew up on a hog farm. And so they were very much like, don't do anything to do with animals. Don't do anything to do with farming. Like, you go into the city and you get into art and you get into culture and, move as far away from rural life as you can. Because rural life equaled, they had relatives who were slaves. They later grew up in Trojan Wars. Yeah, right. Like your grandpa was a slave. And they just really discouraged us from anything in this world because they viewed it to be a path to poverty. And so anytime that they could, my grandma would take me to the theater. My grandma would take me to the opera. She would take me to things that she viewed to be culture, which I really appreciated. And that's how the back and got inside of me.
That's amazing.
And she was incredibly proud of it.
These are fantastic.
I would come home and do some half-cooked accent, and she'd say, "Oh, you're so good at accents."
That's so sweet.
Yeah. So, yeah, she was very proud of me as an actor, very confused when I started to do cowboying stuff. But now she gets it. She really sees that I turned our family lineage and our family stories into something that's prosperous and that matters a lot.
Yeah. Just to wrap up on the students have been seeing the work go by, and viewers of the show will see a slideshow. The listeners, you can check the slideshow later. But in terms of like approach, you have a documentary style approach. You have captions in the back of your book that's very tied to a photojournalism documentary style of work. Where did that come from?
I think, it came about very organically, and I think it came about through stuff like weddings. That's how I shot weddings. I still shoot weddings. If a friend of mine is getting married, I will shoot their wedding, just to guarantee that I get an invite. So when they're cutting people, they're like, "Well, we can't cut the McClellans. They're shooting the thing." But when I deliver their photos, a lot of times the brides are kind of like, "I don't like this. I don't look glamorous. You shot me from a weird angle. I look very much real and like myself. In this photo, I'm eating a taco. I don't want this. This is not what I expected." And that's because I shoot what I see, and I shoot it very, very real, and I put it together into a story. 10 years later, they come back and they go, "I love these photos. I'm sorry for my initial reaction to them, but now I really cherish that moment and you captured it so real."
Right.
And so I try to do the same thing in this rodeo work of like, what did the day look like? What was the progression? It's fine to shoot someone doing sports. It's fine to shoot someone on a bull, but it's much more interesting to shoot them before and after that moment. No other cameras are pointing to the cowboy before he's ready to ride. Then he's nervous and he's tying his hands and he's praying, and there's just so much energy and so much life before that, and afterwards he's running for his life. But everybody wants the hero shot, right? Of him on the bull, like doing what he does. And so just shooting everything, shooting the entire narrative and then picking out the points that really tell a story is something that I completely learned as a wedding photographer.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, Joe. Yeah. Did you have time to give a quick look to the lightning round question?
Yeah.
Here. You want to go with them?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. Historical photographer you wish you could have photographed with. Still, could be so loud, but maybe a little out of reach.
Gordon Parks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty easy. Gordon Parks is my eldest. I at some point said, I want to be as great as Gordon Parks, is what I said. I want to create a body of work that captures a moment in time in my culture that'll resonate for generations.
You also did some film work.
Yeah, you did some film work, and now I've done films. I've done a book. I've got another book coming. I've done tons of photography work, and I do my own rodeo. I do a live event now, and so it's like him as a polymath and him exploring a lot of different modes of creation is something that really inspired me.
Yeah. A contemporary photographer you'd love to photograph with.
I would love to be photographed by Daoud Bey.
Oh, that's a great way to answer that question.
Yeah, I work alone. I don't want to work with any app, but if I had to choose a photographer to shoot my own portrait, it would be Daoud Bey on a large format camera, and I would love to see how he captured me.
That would be a thrill. Yeah. A favorite piece of equipment you use, photographic or otherwise, but related to your practice.
I shoot most of my photos on a Fuji GFX 100 2, but I have a little Fuji XE1 that I can't quit. I love that camera. I love it in my hands. Sometimes if I'm feeling nervous, I'll just pull it out and shoot a whole rodeo with it. And it's, 11 years old and it's not a professional camera, but
It takes you back to that sort of comfort level, right?
yeah, it's like my blankie.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I just fall into it. What do you say?
Well, this I'm wondering about because of all the roadies you go to. Favorite food or type of place to eat when you take a break from photography?
There's two things. One, if I'm in Texas, there's a Chevron gas station outside of Hempstead, Texas, that I like to go to. The best barbecue that you'll ever get in Texas is at a gas station, and it's weird, but you go in and there's a line out the door, and you go in and you get your brisket and one day with a car and eat delicious. The other thing, I spend a lot of times in rural America, and I eat like trash when I'm on the road, when I'm shooting. And so finding a vegetable of any quality is always beautiful. So like a Subway tuna fish sandwich is like an oasis in the desert. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember my first visit to the Midwest, and I ordered like a side of green beans. I wanted a vegetable, and it came with like strips of beef. All right, I tried.
Yeah, this is all bacon and ham hock. So yeah, if I can get like an actual tomato on Zaden, like chef's kiss. This is you.
Oh, well, thank you. This has been fantastic. Thank you for spending all this time with us.
So yeah,
Great. So yes, thank you. Yeah.
well,
All right.
Real Photo Show is produced by me, Michael Chauvin-Dalton. Music by Matteo Chauvin-Dalton and Jim Raimundo. If you like the show, please rate and review with all the stars on your listening platform.